This is a show that I have been looking forward to. One of my best friends in the professional speaking industry in the world of all humankind, my friend Waldo Waldman. Waldo, yeah, decorated fighter pilot, uh, author, a guy is a professional speaker at the top of the game. How you doing, big guy?
I'm doing good, Jim. Hope you had a significant Memorial Day weekend, my friend. I'm sure you were happy, waving that flag and honoring our lost soldiers with pride.
I did, and a matter of fact, my dad was military, as you know. He didn't die in action, of course, but he retired 34 years, U.S. Navy, senior chief of the entire Navy when he retired. He had more duration than any other, all gold stripes up his sleeve. I mean, yeah, love my dad. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, tell me about Rob Waldman. What do you do? Tell me about how you got started. What brought you into the speaking realm? You're one of the most successful speakers in the universe. Tell me the whole story in less than an hour.
Well, success has to be earned. We were talking about that before we went live here. You got to earn your wings every day. We're not guaranteed a job, a life, our health, and so we have to earn it every single day. So it takes courage, it takes commitment, it takes preparation, it takes relationships. Top Gun wingmen like you, Jim, people that you feel comfortable going to for help. But at the end of the day, I think success boils down to being the type of person that others feel comfortable going to for help. If you have that type of attitude and mindset in your life where people can call out Mayday to you and trust that you're able to deliver, then that's success in life. That's how you can grow a business. That's how you can grow a family, trusting partnerships in your community. And, I earned my leadership wings, so to speak, as a fighter pilot in the military, graduated the Air Force Academy. I spent 11 years active and 13 in the reserve as a fighter pilot, instructor pilot, combat veteran, et cetera. And then I weaned my way from that, went to business school, got my MBA in organizational behavior, and then became a sales rep, earning my wings in the sales world, bold calling. I don't like calling it cold calling. You should have a pick up.
Bold calling.
Yes, sir. Bold calling. You better call with confidence, my friend. And so I did that and got the PTSD, the post-traumatic sales disorder, to prove it. Was successful at that, and then was in technology sales and mergers and acquisition, commission only, and then eventually became a leadership speaker. I speak at national sales and leadership meetings all across the world, mostly doing sales and leadership development keynotes, but also speak at associations and do executive coaching on entrepreneurship, on mindset and growth, and leading high-performance teams.
Fantastic. All over the world. One of the top rated speakers and one of the busiest speakers I've ever seen. You're in airports all the time. Tell me about how you arrived at the level of success from a brand new speaker walking in the door to where you are now.
So I think, when I first made a commitment to become a professional speaker, I realized it had to take a lot of work. I was a veteran, I've been through combat and all that great stuff, but hey, you got to apply those same skill sets that I learned in the military to the business world. So I said, what do I need to do to become the best that I possibly can? Jim, you and I are very alike because we don't do something unless we're going to do the best. You just came out with a book. I've watched you speak. You run a successful business. You got to put in the reps. So I learned the business. I read the books. Didn't have yours back then. Otherwise, I would have. I joined the National Speakers Association because if you're looking at your success, I don't care if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a software professional, or leading a team, you always have to be around the other top guns because iron sharpens iron. And so being around other folks and surrounding yourself and your environment with other folks who have succeeded is key to being a success. So
you are who you hang around.
Yes, sir. My dad always said, and my dad was also a Navy veteran like your dad, Jim, by the way, and he just passed away a year ago. So we miss him dearly. He was 93, lived a good life. But he always said, be careful who you spend time with on the weekends. Right? When you're out of the cockpit, when you're out of uniform, who is molding you? Who is developing you, pushing you, calling you bluff, humbling you, making the hair stand up on the back of your neck, willing to piss you off because they love you enough to hold you accountable, to make you be the best. Those are the type of relationships I have in my personal life and in my professional life. And quite frankly, the reason why I'm here is because you're one of them. I mean, when I first joined up, you ran a workshop, I think once a month or a quarter at your studio there in Gwinnett. And you brought myself and a bunch of other folks in, and I had my
Academy. I was doing that for NSA. That's
yes,
right.
sir.
14-week course.
And it was great. And you hold us accountable, and you showed us your books. And I said, if this cocky salesperson in the automobile industry can grow this business, man, I sure as heck can. And you pushed me, you mentored me, you took me under your wing, and so I'm here today. And you're an example of mentorship. I always say, make your friends your mentors, but make your mentors your friends.
You know, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're hanging with the wrong crowd.
Yes, sir. You're exactly right. And so, but there's also a time to give. And, you know, at the end of the day, you were the smartest guy in the room, but you were giving your wings away. I think on the ladder of life, Jim, and you'll agree, you got to have your hand up, you know, reach for somebody a little sharper, smarter, more refined than you, and ask them to lift you, but then have a hand down and pull up others who are struggling, who have the integrity and character of an individual that you want to help. And that's what you did for me, and you do for others, and I do for others as well.
Thank you for saying that. You know, I've helped a lot of people, and all the people don't have that level of gratitude that you're expressing right now, and I appreciate it. I got to tell you, in 1982, I was broke and divorced and angry, and you know, a lot of people can relate to that. And I drove to Atlanta in the middle of the night with an old beat up car, and I made a decision that night that I would be a success. And within 5 years, I was a millionaire. It's all attitude. It's all your thought processes. It's all your success is a conscious, top of the mind thought process. It's a decision that you make. And you and I have made that decision. Between the two of us, we've made millions. And so many people out there today are in the profession, and they haven't reached out and got their full potential. And how do you get all the speaking gigs that you get? How do you get all these bookings that you get? Tell me your secret.
So look, I want to go back to I think the problem is that many people immediately want to make $1 million, but they don't understand that to make $1 million, you got to make or 80, 90,000 a month. But what about first starting out making 10,000 a month, saying, I want to make $100,000 in this profession, set a high, compelling, realistic goal. They have their hand up the ladder 5 or 6 rungs instead of just one level above. So they're impatient. They don't put in the work. They don't do the due diligence and make the sacrifices necessary.
Oh my God.
Bring in that.
Waldo, how many speakers have you seen that don't have anything more than Facebook credentials?
Right.
I mean, you got to have experiential experience to put in front of the audience. You got to be better than the audience at what you're talking about.
100%. And you better know what you're talking about. You can't just be philosophizing about it. They want to see the scars and the battle damage, the fact that you put in the reps and did the work. So for me, I just said, you know what? Number one, I got to build the engine. I got to build the aircraft. I got to, create the business, the back end. If you're going to be a speaker, you must be an entrepreneur first. And to be an entrepreneur, you must know business. And to know business, must know accounting. You must know relationships and banking and finance and all the things necessary that are necessary.
The origin of the word entrepreneur?
Say again?
Do you know the origin of the word entrepreneur?
I do, but I can't remember it. Enlighten me, senior.
Okay. In French, the entree means the opening or the door.
Yes, sir.
And prendre is to take. So entrepreneur means to take the opportunity, take the opening. So that's where the word entrepreneur comes from. Prendre is the word take in French.
Yes, sir.
And entree is the opening or the opportunity. So an entrepreneur is somebody that takes the opportunity.
Right.
So many people are standing there and don't take the chance. Did you see the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Of course.
Remember when he was standing on the edge of the cliff and the voice said, "Step out and the rock will appear."
Hmm.
And he stepped out and the rock. So many speakers today don't step out. They're hanging on to something and afraid and they can't reach where they're headed.
Well, I think it's the biggest factor is fear. And fear is a byproduct, not just of a negative attitude, not just of anxiety and maybe past failures. Fear, in my opinion, having flown F-16s in combat, normally comes about because you just haven't put in the work and are not prepared. You know,
I never did anything like that. Your experience. I saw the movie Top Gun, and I was thinking Waldo the whole time.
well, I think a lot of times, and I think the latest movie did a lot of did more justice to the work necessary behind the scenes. Show me a great fighter pilot, show me a great speaker, show me a great business person, software salesman, or whatever, and you'll have to show me all the reps they did before they jumped into the cockpit, picked up the phone, or gave the presentation, right? And so the things that you do behind the scenes that nobody sees is where the characters develop. So that's what I did. I became a master at my craft as much as I could. Failed 1,001 times, but just slowly evolved. And I never forget the people who helped me. I share a quote in my speeches and in my consulting. I didn't make the quote up. I don't know who did. It's an unknown author, but it says, when you sip from the fountain, don't forget who dug the well. And so you got to think of who's dug your well and maintain those relationships, be grateful, like a key word that you said before, but also realizing that you're digging other people's wells and your children's wells and the wells of the audience's members who may be fearful or dealing with challenges or don't have the courage and skill set to pick up the phone or start their own business or step out of their comfort zone and to grow and expand. And so I think part of my success is that I've evolved in the business, and also I've made a lot of mistakes, and I got to emulate the same things that I want my audience to do. I've got to be relevant. I'm taking up yoga now. I just did some stem cell treatments in my body, and different exercises, different disciplines
Yoga,
in my
my
life.
God.
What's that?
Yoga.
Oh yeah. God help me, right? Not a bad thing to do. Because I'm like lifting weights as a 56-year-old. I still do it, but it's not as important for me with my cranky neck and bad thighs and hips from flying fighters as yoga. So I got to sit there and say, let me delay my personal gratification of having big muscles and start working on my flexibility so that I could be more, flexible running through airports with my bags, trying to catch a flight that's in Atlanta airport because I was stuck in traffic. Right. So,
I was a professional weightlifter for
yes,
years.
sir. I remember. Yeah. You were benching big weights, even in the 50s.
Yeah. I bench pressed 450 all the way through age 50.
That's amazing.
And there are still videos on YouTube of me benching 300 pounds at age 67.
That's so great. Yeah.
But yeah, I did that for years. I'm a cancer survivor now, and a lot of people my age would have quit. I can't live as long as my money. I'm not doing it for money anymore. I'm ego driven. I love showing off, and I love being on stage, and I love helping other people.
I think some people. I like that you said that because ego is often a detriment, but it's also a great thing. When I was flying on combat missions, Jim, my ego kept me from quitting. I didn't want to quit in front of my peers. I wanted to say, you got to earn these wings, man. I'm like, so it's a good thing as long as you're doing it with a sense of purpose and serving others as a byproduct of your ego, right? And it can't be false bravado and false ego based on BS. It's got to be because you once again are prepared, you're credible, you're relevant.
And Muhammad Ali ego, where you knock them out after you show off.
That's right. That's right.
Muhammad Ali ego. That is valid ego. And the truth of the matter is there are two kinds of speakers. There are extroverts and introverts acting like they're not extroverts. Everybody in the Speakers Association, everybody in our profession, everybody in the world who is a professional speaker is in it for two things: to help other people and personal gratification. I believe that.
Well, you always used to say, "Hey, folks, you're running a business. You're not. This isn't a nonprofit or you're not running a ministry, right?
No, I'm not a democracy either.
Right. Meritocracy is a pretty good thing when you're thinking of the business world. I'm all for charity and contribution and philanthropy, but if I'm going to be outworking you and outvaluing you and out relationshiping you, then I deserve the business. And I think it's unfair, and I think some of us would agree, and maybe some of us don't agree, that some people, quote unquote, get the business because of A, B, and C reason, when the real reason should be D, E, and F. And so
in the old days, when I was a speaker and we wore suits, and I'm still a speaker, but I've diversified into the video, and I've got all kinds of channels of income now. But when I wore a suit, put on my tie, every morning I would look in the mirror and I'd say, by God, somebody will pay for this.
mm-hmm.
Every day I came to get money. I came to be paid for my professional services. And that is a saying every speaker needs to understand. Today, I will be paid for my professional services. It's an attitude.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I say you should command your fee, not demand your fee. We have wing commanders, squadron commanders, flight commanders, and then demanders. When you can command your fee through your example, through your value, through your relationships, through the content, through your uniqueness, the impact that you're making on the audience. And once again, when we're talking speaker here, but I want you to think, anybody watching this, if you're a sales rep at a car company or selling insurance, that you command your fee through your example, through your follow-up, through your disciplines, through the value and outcomes that you provide people. So that's when you build confidence. Commanding builds confidence. Every commander is confident. The demanders normally aren't, because they number one, let their ego too much get in their way, and they're what we call in the fighter world all thrust and no vector. A lot of attitude, but very little direction. You don't want that to be you. You need to be both. Attitude plus action determines altitude. You need both to win.
When you and I were collaborating, when you wrote the foreword for my current book, you mentioned to me that you rarely use a speaker's bureau or a speaker's agency, that you generate most of your own business. How do you do that?
Well, here's the thing. Another key element that allowed me to be a success after 21 years is my brand. I believe you need to be a mint chocolate chip speaker or a mint chocolate chip brand in a vanilla chocolate world. And that's why when you go in a Kroger or a Publix, there's all these flavors of ice cream. You got the mocha almond fudge, you got mint chocolate chip, which is my flavor. I own that. Don't steal it, Jim. If you like mint chocolate chip, you are going to love me. But guess what? Some people cannot stand mint chocolate chip. They combine the two, they want to throw up, and that's okay. It's when you're safe, when you're vanilla and chocolate, when you're afraid to step out of your comfort zone, when you don't have the content or the experience and the branding and personality like you and I have to segment yourself in a unique way, both through your personality and through your content, then you're going to be that vanilla chocolate. And most people, it's like, vanilla chocolate, whatever. You better, if you're going to be chocolate, you better be the best non-GMO, gluten-free, low-fat chocolate, or the highest fat, richest chocolate, all natural. You don't give a crap how many calories there are. You better own that and be absolutely unique. And so that's something I've done. I wore my onesie, my flight suit here.
I love that.
It's my brand. When I put this flight suit on, I'm in mission mode. I'm in connect mode. I'm in value mode. I'm ready to jump in that cockpit and win. And so I wear this in my seminars. I often wear civilian clothes too. But when I'm ready to take that stage, I'm mentally prepared. Wingman, the flight suit, a lot of the vernacular you hear me using, my personality, a lot of my phrases, they're all very, very unique. But the biggest thing is the personality, right? I'm high energy. I'm intense. I'm loving. I believe people need to be hugged a lot more in this world, but I also believe people need to be kicked in the butt in a good way in this world. You need to get your butt pushed, Stop accepting mediocrity. Be around people and peers who are pushing you. And I want to do that from the stage. If people are just laughing at my jokes and having a good time or crying, I didn't do my job. I want them squirming just a little bit. And that's how I want folks to
I
make
don't tell
me.
jokes. I tell parables.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Now, whatever religion you might be, in the New Testament Bible, which I subscribe to, Jesus spoke in parables. And a parable is a story that makes a point. So even I don't tell jokes, I tell parables.
Sure.
So a parable is a story that makes a point. I see speakers that tell jokes or tell stories that have nothing to do with the subject, and the audience takes nothing back. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you can't confuse humor with jokes. Humor, the ability to engage, laugh, poke fun at yourself, and create levity in the room is a lot different than telling a silly joke that has absolutely nothing to do with the point that you're making and the content that you're delivering. And I think a lot of young speakers or even mature ones fail to do that. I'm not a funny guy, but a lot of folks who see my seminars laugh a lot. They have a good time. I'm very humorous. Because humor is the marinade to the
you are a outrageously funny guy. I'm telling you, I love it when you and I get together. It's like, Laurel and Hardy, the Smothers Brothers. You and I we bounce off each other. I remember how I met you, and we were walking across the floor of the Marriott Hotel in New Orleans. And I saw you way across the room, and I gravitated to you because we're like magnets. We pull each other.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you and Debbie there. We connected, and that was the start of this relationship. And one thing about you, Jim, is that you have a great memory, amazing memory. I know you're really good at memorizing people's names, and I learned that from you. And I do it a lot in my seminars. I can't remember all the people's names in the room, but when I show up to an event, from the moment I step on that plane, because you never know, even in the airport that you're flying out of, that person sitting next to you could be in your audience in Vegas at the Venetian Hotel. And that's happened a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
You're always on parade, as General George Patton once said. And this goes through in anything that you do in life and in business. You're always on parade in your community, in a local Starbucks. What reputation and brand are you sending out there in your community, outside of your flight suit, outside of your work, that is promoting you as a human being? And I think people gravitate to that, but your ability to remember people's names is a byproduct of the effort that you put into your programs and the preparation. And so when I go up to an event, I'm working from the moment I step on that plane. From the presentation to study the notes in the hotel and the airport, I work out, I attend the events, I get to know people. And if you can make a subtle connection with a prospect or a customer that's in that room, an audience member, through their family, through a conversation you had when you were checking in, something that you remember, in particular their name, that immediate connection to them as a person, man, you're building that rapport and you're marinating the steak of that content. You're removing the barriers of trust that most people have when they sit in an audience and say, well, we got an hour to listen to this motivational speaker or this sales seminar leader. I'd rather be playing golf or making my own calls. So your job is to remove the barriers to trust, diminish them, and make that connection. Any way you could do that is a great thing. So preparation.
You win over what I call the mutineers.
Yeah.
Any audience that's a corporate audience, there are certain people in the audience that don't want to be there.
Of course.
And then I call those people the mutineers, and you can always pick out the mutineers who are sitting there like this. They've got an attitude.
Yeah.
And I'd make my speech directly to them. I look at them, I gesture toward them, and I make points toward them. I win them over.
That's great. Yeah. And that's knowing your audience. And I bet you realize that beforehand, you kind of working your way around and connecting with people, shaking hands and all that. And that also goes to show, especially for the new speakers who may be listening to this, just because a person's arms are folded or they may be checking out, doesn't necessarily mean that they may not be paying attention or connecting with you. I can tell you how many times when I thought I lost that audience member who maybe has been checked out, but they came up after me saying, wow, you changed my life. What you said meant so much to me. I'm going through a lot right now. Thank you for giving me some tools to deal with my anxiety or to build my relationships. So that takes a lot of reps. That takes a lot of experience.
Names. You mentioned names. You know, Waldo, when I first met you, I was better today than and I have to make up my mind before the speech that I'm going to do this. But I will stand at the door and shake hands with people as they come in and memorize their names. There was a video, and I think it's in my YouTube channel right now. 150 people in the audience. And this was in Cleveland, Ohio. And I said, everybody do me a favor, put your name over your name badge. And I named 150 people back to themselves and didn't miss a first names only. First names, 150 people. I named all 150 people back to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, people that are watching this, and this goes for anybody, a member of the audience or a professional speaker, or somebody, going to dinner with 20 prospects, and they're hoping to close a major deal, is you may not be good at memorizing names. It's tough to do what you do. It's tough for me to remember 10 or 20 names, but you better know that company. You better have done your due diligence and learned about their challenges, their issues, the DNA of what makes them tick. Look at their press releases, do pre-call intel gathering, ask questions of the audience members beforehand. If you're up there doing the same program you did the week before with a totally different group, spewing the same content in the same manner, in the same way, you have not earned your fee. You do not have the right to command a high fee. You're a low-level speaker. So you may have certain strengths and weaknesses, but there is no excuse these days for true, authentic, relevant customization, not just blurbing out a competitor's name or naming their revenue goals for the next quarter. It's really understanding how they work. And that's another competitive advantage that I do. And people say, wow, for whatever Waldo lacks in charisma or good looks, he sure as heck makes up for it with his understanding about business. And that is so important. And you have control of that. Once again, you got to sweat. You got to put in the time. And that's a major differentiator in a commoditized world, in software sales, whatever the heck it is, or as a speaker.
Oh, absolutely. In a commoditized world, so many speakers are doing the same tired speech they've been doing for 30 years. I mean, you genuinely customize, not just the mission statement on the website, but I think you dive a little deeper into who the people are, who the movers and shakers in the organization are, what they're trying to accomplish, what the company does. There are so many things. Research. I'm in the automobile industry. I'm niched heavily in the automobile industry. There's not a car dealer in the world that doesn't know who I am, and it's kind of interesting, but I've genuinely researched heavily that community, the dealer. I interviewed Karina Deal last week with one of my panel shows, and she's been a friend of mine for 25 years. Her husband died suddenly, and she inherited a dealership, and she's one of the biggest dealers in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
But I've followed her career, and I got that out in the broadcast. She's not just a car dealer. She's a community contributor. She does things. It's unbelievable. You've got to be able to know your client.
Sure.
And that's something you learn from me. I learned from you. I'm not sure where that symbiosis came from, but you and I have passed so much information back and forth through the years. And continue on. I interrupted you, but you hit a point with me.
Yeah, it just always goes back to relevance. You've got artificial intelligence now providing some opportunities for intel. You've got a lot of diverse audiences there. If you're speaking at a user group meeting or an automobile association convention or a sales meeting or where there's a lot of competitors in the room, understanding that the DNA, what makes them tick and how they operate is key, but then always staying on point. You got to be careful going down rabbit holes of content that have nothing to do with the issues that are going on in that room. At the end of the day, when you talk about customization, you may need to modulate your stories and modulate your points and modulate your outcomes of those points based on what the demographic is of the room, who's in the audience, et cetera. So even though you have a canned speech, it's always, you should have 2 days of content and then modulate that based on the type of audience. And then also, hey, maybe there are some audiences that just shouldn't have you. You never want to be a square peg in a round hole, fit a square peg in a round hole.
Have you ever bombed in front of an audience?
Oh, I wouldn't say 100 times, but in my first part of my career, a bunch of times. Absolutely. I remember one time it was for Federated Department Stores. Kay McComas hired me. So I remember she saw me speak at a big conference in Vegas in 2003, a Credit and Collections Recovery 2003. It was at the Four Seasons Hotel in the Mandalay Bay. One of my first events I ever did. I did pretty solid there. She was in the audience. She hired me for Federated, around 150 buyers, and I just wasn't feeling it that day. It was in Ohio, I think Mason, Ohio, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was losing the energy. The audience wasn't kind of laughing or giving back. I was like, and I realized at the end of this, it doesn't matter if the audience isn't laughing at your jokes, if they're not, you're not connecting with them the way you want. You have a job to do. That person, Kay McComas, who I just had lunch with 3 months ago in January in Phoenix, because we still stay in touch. She did something special for me that day. She wrote me a check and asked me to deliver something. She was paying me, like you mentioned before. And I have no business getting in my head and my ego and say, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm losing my energy. That's the time, as we say in the fighter pilot world, to push it up, to go all out, to stay focused, to reach.
Push it up, push it up. I learned that from you.
Yeah. So you got to be like, it's time for me to keep delivering. And I was ashamed of myself for thinking that, but it was a lesson learned for me. Always focus on that customer. Get out of your head. You're there to serve them. They're not there to make you feel good. And if it's a byproduct of your content and your lack of storytelling, whatever, start working on your craft, baby, and get better. And so, yes, I have bombed, but when we bomb is when we learn. But you got to be willing to bomb. You got to be willing to step up in these audiences that you may be a little afraid of. You got to be willing to try something new in front of an audience, a new story. Be willing to make mistakes. Do your best to prepare for them, but be willing to be okay with falling on your knees and scraping your elbows, and just get back up, get the coaching, put in the work, get back in the cockpit.
You always talk about, all these flight terms. Watch your six. Call yourself the wingman. Explain all that. Oh my gosh.
Well, you see a little graphic here, right? So I'm not sure if you can see the whole thing, but it says check 6 there. So for those that don't know what check 6 means, it means when you're strapped into a tiny little F-16, barely able to move in this little cockpit here, you can't see your most vulnerable position, which is behind you. 12, 3, 9 o'clock, pretty easy to see. But you don't know if you're leaking fuel or on fire, if an enemy aircraft's trying to come up at your 6 o'clock. But if you have a wingman or a wingman at your right 3 o'clock or left 9 o'clock, it's easier for them to see what you can't see, to look over their shoulder and cross-check your blind spot. And then ideally tell you to take action, to brake right or brake left or do some maneuver to save you. And so you don't second guess that person when they give you the feedback, which may be what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. You don't let your ego get in the way. You don't get into an argument. You do the maneuver. You check their 6, they check yours. And so as a professional speaker, as an entrepreneur, as a car dealer, you have blind spots in your particular role in your organization that you may not be able to see. And so building collaborative relationships with other verticals in your organization, from the finance department, sales, technology, maintenance, customer service, HR, learning what they do, and building relationships with your peers who may be more experienced than you. You want them to have your back, to tell you what you may not see, give you the feedback, and you need to have the maturity, the discipline, and the commitment to take the action. And so this is a key concept in anything you're doing in life, as a speaker, as a professional, or whatever. So part of what I do as a professional speaker is I have folks, my peers, my mastermind groups, my spouse, right? My assistants who have my back, who are building my picture so that I can have a 360-degree view of what's going on. And as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, running a business, you need to have the big picture. And also,
How much staff do you have, Waldo?
So I have 2 full-timers. I've got one, Jesse, who is he does video and technology and some customer skills, and then another guy, Rafe, who does a lot of my admin, contracts, and initial client calls, qualifying leads that come in.
So
Plus a bunch of independent contractors, which are always evolving.
When you first met me, I had the big offices, and I guess I had 30, 40 employees from time to time. And, after 2008, Debbie and I downsized the business, and we got into producing conferences. And, I picked up a lot of virtual training, and a lot of speakers are gravitating toward that. Another one of my mentors, besides you, has been Terry Brock.
Oh, yeah.
I call him Mr. Gadget.
Yes, sir.
he's always got some gadget that I'm picking up on, and at my age, I'm not supposed to know technology, but I'm here. I am teaching classes at Northwood University, and one thing I say about the speaking profession, and I tell all speakers, is study your profession as surely as if you're studying for a master's degree in any other profession.
Yes, sir.
Study your profession. If this is what you're going to do, I'm not saying quit your day job, but there better be, if you're going to be a professional speaker, there has to become a day that you quit your day job.
Yes, sir.
You've got to have a point in the future when you say, this is my point in the future when I'm going to do this. I'm going to step out there and the rock will appear. Yes. I'm going to be a full-time professional speaker, and you work toward that. And you study your profession as surely as if you're studying for a master's degree in any other profession. Mm-hmm. In the speaking profession, folks, listen to me. There's no side hustle. No side hustle. This is your job. This is what you do. You're selling expertise. You're selling experience. Your college education isn't worth that much without experiential credentials.
Right. Yeah, you took the words. You took the words right out of my mouth. It drives me crazy when people talk about side hustle, Jim. No, if you have a side hustle, you can't be focused. I have a saying: if you diffuse, you lose. If you diffuse your effort, you lose. Now,
I'm gonna steal that one.
Huh?
I'm gonna steal that one.
Yeah, go ahead. You can. I've shared some of beware of distractions disguised as opportunities. Yes, that's a Jim Ziegler original. Beware of distractions disguised as opportunities. And I've used your phrase before, and I didn't attribute it to you in the past, and I have as well. But I apologize in advance for using it. That is, yeah. So that's about focus, right? Beware of a distraction disguised as an opportunity. You can't be running after these shiny objects, and you also must be committed. When I was first starting my business, I was in sales. So I was from 8 in the morning to 6 or 7 at night. I'd work on my sales job that was paying the bills. I did well, hit the gym, come home, and from 9 to midnight, I was building my business until I had the time to go full commitment, 100%. I'm not doing anything else. There cannot be any side hustle. And so, and you're right, you got to get that mini MBA and study it and be a master at your craft and open up the books. You remember Dottie Walters, right, Jim?
I do.
I went to her seminars as well. She's an old school speaker coach from back in the day. I invested in coaches. You got to be willing to write a check out equal to or greater than the check that that you want written to you. I want to say that again. If you want to be a professional and be a top gun in the business world and professional, and in particular professional speaking, you must be willing to write a check out equal to or greater than the check that you expect to be written to you. And I've written some big checks. And I've lost a lot of money in the same process because I didn't get the value for some. There's a lot of folks, unlike Jim, who are going to be professional speakers or coaches who are offering offering a lot and commanding or demanding a great fee, but they shouldn't be commanding it. They shouldn't be delivering it. They're always trying to upsell you on something else. And so,
you have a book, and this book is extremely successful. Is it a Wall Street Journal?
yeah, New York Times or Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Yeah, and it's called
Never Fly Solo. Yeah, there you go.
Never Fly Solo. Explain the book.
So it really has to be with what I mentioned before, how to be a wingman, a trusted partner that, hey, if you want to make things happen in your life and strap it to your jet, you got to be willing to build trusted partnerships with others who may be outside your cockpit, who you can nurture relationships with, who you can go to for help, who can sharpen your sword, help you to grow, build your picture, right? I always say the most important wingman is yourself, right? You got to first work on that person staring back at you when you put your flight suit on every morning, with your discipline, with your character, with your health and fitness, with your relationships, the things that you can control. And then, and only then, after you worked on that inner wingman, then you can work with the others and build those trusting partnerships in your life. So I always like to share when Elizabeth Dole ran the Red Cross years ago, she said, I didn't wait for rivers to flood before I built relationships. Don't wait for you to get missiles launched at you or the well to dry up, or for you to have a bad month or a bad year or a situation where you're calling out Mayday and building relationships then. You got to do it when things are going well, on the way up. So on the way down, you can have folks like we were talking about before, Jim, that you can pick up and ask for it to be hired, and they trust you because they know you delivered. And so start today. If you're a professional speaker, build relationships with professional speakers. If you're new into the car business, start networking within your organization. Be the go-to guy.
Role models and mentors.
100%. But you have to be the person first. You have to be the go-to guy or gal who's showing up, volunteering, lending other people your wings. And then you'll build that reputation capital and be that asset and ally. That's basically what Never Fly Solo is about. It talks about my combat experience and a lot of my challenges, as well as I suffered with claustrophobia and a fear of heights and other issues that tried to.
Those two things are generally detrimental to a fighter pilot.
Yes, sir.
Fear of heights and claustrophobia. Okay.
That's going to be the topic of my next book, Jim, about how I overcame claustrophobia and panic attacks on 7-hour night missions in an F-16 and still able to do my job.
You know, I got a new book out too.
You do?
It's not going to be it's an Amazon book, but still in all. So you're a professional speaker. How come you're not rich yet? And I think you wrote the foreword. I know you wrote the foreword.
I did.
And I thank you for that glowing foreword. I wasn't expecting anything as touching as what you wrote. But, you know, so many speakers today don't get paid. I don't believe in free speech. You know, that's one time, you know, when you're not charging for all your events. I've done no charge speeches, but I always had something in it for me. You know, whether I had a photo opportunity or, you know, there was a charity reason. There's some reason that I did the free speech. But I'm a professional. You and I hit on that earlier. You know, today I will be paid for my professional services.
Yeah, and the payment may not come in dollars, but it can come in video or photos or a reference or just another client who you can put on your resume in an industry that you want to get known in, right? And a lot of folks say you should never speak for free. I think it's a bunch of baloney, and I know you do as well. You got to.
No, you don't. But when you speak for free, there's got to be something in it for you. Something that a reason. If it's a charitable event, then that's something for me. But you know, there's many times I have spoken for free, but I always aimed for paid. I did 98 keynote speeches for state auto dealer conventions. 98, never hit 100 yet. And I don't charge the most. I charge $10,000, $7,500 for those speeches because one advantage was the audience was car dealers, and 100% of my audience could hire me. Most speakers don't enjoy that when doing a keynote.
Sure.
100% of the people in my audience are capable of hiring me. So I would $10,000. But you know what? Many of those associations said to me, Jim, you're the only speaker we ever paid, because I had what I call the testicular fortitude. You use that one, the testicular fortitude to ask for the money.
Well, and you also had the credibility and the background and the chops and the experience and the business, right? And trust me, folks, if you're going to have one thing, have the experience like Jim does, and then the testicular fortitude will come, right? Don't have the testicular fortitude with nothing to back it up. That's called brassness. That's called way too egotistical, and people smell that inauthenticity, and you will never make it in the world. You need to back up your promises. Yeah, and that's one thing, Jim, that I love about you, and that's why you're a success. I'm 56. You got me by a few years.
Oh yeah, I got underwear older than you.
I believe that, sir. I believe that.
Wearing it right now. Yeah. But anyway, Waldo, as we wind down the last 7 or 8 minutes we're together, what would you tell a brand new speaker that we haven't covered in this broadcast?
I think I need help are the 3 most important words in the English language. Mayday, mayday, I need help. That's the wingman's call to action. Don't be afraid on your journey to go out and ask for help. And you do that by earning the right to ask for help. But sometimes you may need to just reach out to somebody that's successful in a business, and with politeness and compassion and humility, ask them to maybe spend a half hour on the phone with you. Every month, I'm speaking to new speakers several times a month, giving my wings away, 30 to 60 minutes, sharing best practices. If I showed you my calendar, I probably did 4 or 5 in the last month or so. Some Navy SEALs.
Although when you first met me, I was doing the Speakers Academy, and we would have as many as 20. I did it 3 times, I believe. And we'd have as many as 20 speakers in that class. And I would do a 14-week academy, and that was donating my time. And at the time, I was booked continuously. I got 5 million miles with Delta, so I was donating my time back to the profession. And some of the top speakers in the industry went through that class, including yourself, And I didn't give you your talent. I didn't make Waldo who he is, but I certainly gave you a push.
Yeah, and that's why when you seek, you shall find. And so you got to find the folks who are givers and takers. And I think there is a time to take with honor. Take. And when I say take with honor, it means you're paying it forward. You're being kind and respectful. You're not picking people's brains. You're massaging their temples, right? And taking them out to lunch, and maybe sending them an occasional card. Nick Talkman, a speaker out of Boston, sent me a text this morning checking in on me. I coached him. Super nice guy. Never forgets that I helped dig as well a little bit. Don't be a taker and take dishonorably and forget about those folks who dug your well. But in the same sense, you got to give with honor as well, which Jim does, which I try to do. Give unconditionally, knowing that that other people have helped you out. I'm sure there's tons, Jim, that who helped you, who were
Jackie B. Cooper was my mentor, and he blazed the trail for Grant Cardone, me, Stuker, all of us. We followed that Jackie B. Cooper.
Sure.
He blazed the trail.
And so you attribute your success to those others, and so be a take with honor, give with honor. But we have a saying in the fighter world and the military: the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in battle. You want to win, you better sweat, and don't put off tomorrow what needs to be done today. Win stands for work it now. Don't make it happen tomorrow. Do the work today.
A lot of work ethic in our mentality.
Yes, sir. We're kind of old school. And I think old school is new school.
I'm conservative.
Work-wise, ethics-wise, 100%. Same with me. I think it's a good thing. I love those old school values, the biblical values, whatever you call them. I always like to say God rested on the seventh day, which meant he worked his tail off to 6 others. So working, pushing it up is a good thing as long as you know when to pull it back, at least 1 day a week, which is the Sabbath.
You've got to. So people are watching this broadcast. Please share this broadcast. You're watching the Ziegler Zone. I'm James A. Ziegler. My friend Rob Waldo Waldman on the other screen, and we're professional speakers. We're very heavily niched in leadership, and I'm niched in the automobile industry. We're both members of the National Speakers Association. That was the common thread that we both met. He's an award-winning speaker, CSP, CPAE, which is the automotive. No, listen to me. What's CPAE?
Speaker Hall of Fame.
Speaker
Certified.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So and please share this broadcast and watch for more Ziegler Zone. We're not regularly scheduled. We're doing it whenever it needs to be done. And I'll be running a lot more Ziegler Zones in the automobile industry and in the speaking industry, because being a professional speaker, I spoke at 98 state auto dealer conventions, 4 AICPA conventions, 3 JD Power roundtables, and 17 NADA national conventions as a top 10 rated workshop with speakers. So my credentials are on ZieglerSuperSystems.com. Rob, where can they find you?
So if you go to yourwingman.com,
yourwingman.com,
and then, or Google me on social media at Waldo Waldman. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, but definitely LinkedIn and Instagram at Waldo Waldman. And I mentioned before, I want to give everybody a gift. If you go to full screen,
okay, let me see if I can make that bigger.
Yep. If you guys
how's that looking?
It looks great, sir. My book, Never Fly Solo. If you use your QR code to go to that website, yourwingman.com/NFS, put your name and email address in, you'll get the audio book. You'll get a resilience challenge, 5 videos on dealing with change and building resilience. Share it with your team, share it with others. And then when you do get it, if you'd be so kind, just to let me know, hey, heard about you on the Ziegler podcast, Ziegler show. That would be great as well. So that's all I got, Jim.
Oh, hey, I'll tell you what. You are one of my very best friends, not just in the professional speaking industry, but as a person, person to person. You're one of my best friends in the whole world, and I appreciate your endorsement in my book. I appreciate your friendship, and we share a lot of similar politics. There's a lot of craziness happening in the world, and by the way, I stand with Israel.
Thank you. I do too, 100%. Thanks for sharing that, Jim.
Just want to put that out there. Do me a favor, wave goodbye to the audience.